So hello everyone, welcome to today's webinar, CBAP/CCBA Solving Case Study-Based Questions. I'm your host, Mariah Weiss, and on behalf of IIBA, thanks for joining us today. Today's webinar is a public event. It is designed to deliver practical resources for you as you continue to grow your skill set and deliver value within your organization. When you join IIBA, you become a member of an international association dedicated to developing and promoting the business analysis profession. Your IIBA membership gives you access to a vibrant BA community and resources to support your development and career growth. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the Q&A section in your webinar controls at the bottom of your Zoom window. Although we are not sharing the slides for today's presentation, we will be sharing a link to accompanying questions that we will have during the webinar for you to engage with, as well as a PDF for you. IIBA is a not-for-profit professional association serving the growing field of business analysis, and our goal is to unite a community of professionals to create better business outcomes. As the global thought leader and voice of the business analysis community, IIBA works to maintain global standards for the ongoing development of the practice and certifications. This webinar is brought to you by our sponsor, Techcanvas. Techcanvas is an information technology certifications training organization for professionals. They offer internationally recognized certifications in the fields of business analysis and project management. Founded by IT professionals, they are committed to making learning a more practical, goal-oriented, and structured exercise. They also provide consulting services in business analysis. We would like to thank Techcanvas for supporting IIBA and the business analysis community. I would also like to introduce our presenter from Techcanvas, Satish. Satish is a CBAP certified senior business analyst with over 10 years of experience working on large system implementation projects across verticals like core banking, telecommunication, global mobility solutions, and software license management. He has worked with multiple Fortune 500 clients and has exceptional interest and knowledge in business processes and possesses the ability to understand the chain of events, both on a process level as well as a technical level. Without further ado, I'll hand this presentation over to Satish.
Thanks, Maria. So before I begin, just wanted to thank you guys for taking out your time and attending this webinar. So good morning and good evening, folks from different parts of the world. And I'm not a big fan of introduction. So I completed my CBAP. So let me talk about my stint with IIBA certification. So I started my certification, completed my CCBA certification in the year 2015. And I recently completed my CBAP in the year 2020. I mean, towards the December 2020, I completed my CBAP certification. So I thought that like many folks are like, I believe all those 130 folks here who have registered, you all are like planning to give CCBA and CBAP certification. So over the next 1 hour, I'm going to demystify the exam format, what kind of questions to expect, and how can you prepare. So the biggest thing when it comes to preparing for CBAP certification is your strategy. Because unlike other examinations, this is an earned certification. Because right now, if you see, I'm not going to name those certifications right now. All you have to do is attend the training for 2 days. And on the second day, all you need to do is give an online examination, you get that certificate. But IIBA certifications are not of that type. In order to get an IIBA certification, you need to put in the hard work, and you will have to go through the content and then sit for the examination, and finally you will bask in the glory. So IIBA, CCBA, and CBAP certifications are always earned certification. And why do I stress that like it's an earned certification? Because the very moment when you click on that submit button and when you see a pop-up like congratulations, and I'll tell you, no other thing can, I mean, that would bring you that adrenaline rush when you see that pop-up, right? Congratulations, and you'll feel on the top of the world. I mean, I experienced it, and I have also assisted those folks who are like preparing for the certification. I have assisted close to 200 folks, and in that, like close to 50 plus folks have given the certifications and they have cleared it. So everybody, I mean, this when you have decided that you'll go for CCBA and CBAP, I'll tell you, this journey would be like something that it would be a memorable journey, and it would be worthwhile, the effort and hard work which you put. So now let's get back to our content. Tips and tricks to solve scenario case study based questions. So I don't know if you guys are regularly attending IIBA webinars. Some 4 months before, we had a webinar on what should be the smarter approach. But here I'm going to talk specifically on the scenario case study questions. So for those folks who are preparing for CCBA, fret not. You will not get any scenario based questions in CCBA. All you get is like straightforward questions. But for those folks who are preparing for CBAP, let me be clear, the questions will be completely scenario and case study based questions. That is like, you cannot expect any direct questions. So you may get some 10 or 20 direct based questions, but rest all will be scenario based questions. But I'll give you those strategy. Like if you get a scenario based question, how should you go about it and everything? We'll discuss that in detail. So with that intro, let's get started. So you know about Techcanvas. Maria had already shared. Techcanvas is like endorsed training provider for IIBA, all the trainings, right from domain BA, domain related trainings, Agile, PMP, and all the business analyst certifications. And we also have question banks for IIBA. So if you're preparing for CCBA on your own or CBAP on your own, but you want to give some mock examinations, you can always enroll for Techcanvas question bank. So with that, let's get started. So I'll be talking about the knowledge area weightage and 7 tips. I mean, ideally, I'm quite fascinated and engrossed with that number 7. So I can still write around 10 or 15, but I thought maybe for this 1 hour, I'll go with only top 7 tips. And I also would like to debunk some of the CBAP related myths also. And finally, the most important section, I'll answer all your questions related to the certifications or BA career. So ideally, the first starting point, I don't know at what point in your, what stage you are in with respect to your preparations, but to me, no matter at which stage you are, the first thing you need to concentrate is the weightage of the questions. Why? So if you see this particular weightage, right, you know that like 30% of the questions will come from RADD. So that means that like when you prepare for your examination, you need to focus on each and every line which is there in RADD. So before that, let me tell you, why should I read? I mean, I get this question often. How many times should I read BAPOC? Or like, should I mug up or should I memorize? But so if I have to answer those questions one by one, I'll tell you, there is nothing like some folks, if they're intellectually curious or something, all they need to do is like, they will skim through the content and that's it, they're ready for the examination. Some folks, they do some 5 times, they'll read the BAPOC end to end and they are ready for the examination. And some folks 10 reading, 20 reading. And I know folks who are still reading BAPOC for 2 years and they are still not ready for the examination. So I will not equate and I'll not give you a formula that like if you read BAPOC 5 times, you will clear. Nothing of that sort. It all depends on how you prepare. The second question is that what is scenario based questions? What is case study based questions? So anyway, I'll show you some towards the end. I'll show you some sample questions. And along after this webinar, you will also get that handout from the IIBA team. So you can try answering those questions and you will know, like once you answer those questions, you will know like what kind of preparation you need to do. So now coming back, the most important thing is the like understanding the weightage. All the sections are equally important, but pay special attention to RADD. And you may ask me like, why is techniques not added here? So whatever you see here is a combination of that elicitation technique. For instance, it is the combination of the knowledge area plus that technique. For instance, if the question comes from BAPM, you will also get questions from that technique also. So BAPM is a combination of knowledge area plus technique. So separately, you will not get questions on the technique. It will all be interconnected to one particular knowledge area. So understanding this particular format is very important. And now let me give you a breakup for those folks who are getting around 120 questions, right? For CBAP, my concentration is primarily towards CBAP. And those folks who are preparing for CCBA, you can still listen to this conversation because towards the end of the session, if you feel that like you're ready for CBAP, because you never know, you all these days you thought like I cannot answer the scenario based questions and everything, and that's why you would have decided to go for CCBA. But let me tell you, CBAP is more easier than CCBA because CCBA, they expect you to answer the right word, right context, straightforward questions, right? But CBAP, the scenario based questions are quite easier than the straightforward questions. I mean, trust me, I know this would sound like how come scenario-based questions will be easier, but towards the end, I will debunk it. So now coming to CBAP, folks. So you have close to 120 questions. And I'll tell you, IIBA has not made the scoring logic public. Okay, nobody knows what is the passing criteria. Out of 120 questions, 80%, if I get it right, I can pass. Nothing of that sort. You will be evaluated on all these 6 knowledge areas, and IIBA will give you a score, lower, higher, and in case I feel that like when you score more than 80% questions correct, then you get higher. And if you score more than 60% questions, then you will come into that lower tag or anything. And that, since that logic is not publicly available, I believe that like you need to score more in RADD and other knowledge areas. At least you will have to get into that median range. That is, you have to get at least 60 to 70 questions right. So you'll have to target like that. And I know folks will concentrate on the first 4 knowledge areas and they will skip the other 2 knowledge areas, but that is not going to work for this examination. All the knowledge areas are equally important, but RADD for both CCBA and CBAP folks, you have to pay special attention. Each and every line, requirement architecture, design options, recommendations, those all tasks are very, very important from the exam perspective. And if I have to give you a breakup of 120 questions for CBAP folks, 40 questions will be case study based questions. And what is case study based questions? So you will get some question that can go for 2 or 3 pages, and it will have a use case diagram, it will have a table, it will have some estimation and everything. So you will get all those content and 6-7 paragraphs also. So it can go for 2 pages minimum. And then there will be some 5 questions based on it. So likewise, you can expect at least 6 case study based questions. So 6 into 5, 30. On average, 6 case study based questions. So 30 to 40 questions will be case study based, and rest 40 questions will be scenario based. And what is scenario based question? I'll give you a small difference. Okay, if it is a CCBA, the question will be like this: what is the input for Plan B approach? Okay, this is how the question will be like. What is the input for Plan B approach? This is a CCBA question. But the same question in CBAP, if it is a scenario based, I'll tell you. Thomas is working as a business analyst in Acme Corporation, and Thomas is reporting to Susan, who is the sponsor. And Susan gave Thomas a business need document and wanted him to go through that business need. And so Thomas is entrusted the responsibility to define the approach for the business analysis activity. What do you think will be the primary input required for Thomas in order to do this activity? So if you understand the scenario, there is a clue that like you need to finalize the approach. And if you look at the last line of the question, it is also clear to you they are indirectly asking you what is the input for the Plan B approach. So you guys got the difference, right? Instead of asking you what is the input for Plan B approach, they will rather disguise it and they will create some 3 or 4 lines. And in that 3 or 4 lines, there will be some particular problem, one situation, one scenario. And finally, they will ask you something related to the input, output, or the elements. So that is the difference between CCBA and CBAP. So 40 case study based questions, 40 scenario based questions, and rest 20 questions will be like straightforward questions. Okay, so anyway, you will have to spend your time answering all those big questions. So in between, if you are lucky, you may get some 10 or 15 questions which are like one or two sentences. Okay, in CBAP it is very tough to find a 1 or 2 sentences question, but still you can get around 15 to 20 1 or 2 line questions, which you can consider yourself lucky if you see those kind of questions, because hardly it will take only 30 seconds for you to answer that question. And that last 10 questions will be mathematical questions. And those mathematical questions, it can come from techniques of financial estimation, wherein you will have to do that average, addition, cost benefit analysis, and PERT estimation, return on investment calculation, and you guys have that net present value and all those formulas you need to remember. And let me tell you, you have this online calculator functionality there. So even if it is like a mathematical question, you are, with the help of that online calculator, it will take hardly a minute for you to solve it. And just refresh the basics of the percentage and all, just in case if they're asking you the return on investment percentage, right? You need to refresh the basics of the percentage, how it is calculated, the percentage and everything, like cost price minus sell price divided by sell price into 100, those all things, right? You need to calculate the return on investment, and also those all formulas you need to refresh your basic mathematics. But let me tell you, minimum 8 to 10 questions it will be mathematical, quite mathematical in nature. So with that, let's get started. So the approach: read all answers to the question and avoid impulse of selecting the first option which you assume to be correct and ignoring the rest. 90% of the folks, who are still preparing for the examination, when they give their first mock or whenever they're giving the practice questions, they do this blunder. The problem is, like, the very moment when you read the question, you don't look at all the 4 options. At the very moment when you read a question, you see option A and you feel that, like, option A is the best, and you just click on option A and you ignore the rest 3. You don't even skim through like what are the other 3 options. Don't do this blunder, because this is like the most common blunder which I've seen with folks who are preparing for the certification, because your conscious bias kicks in. You feel that, like, yeah, this is I have read this in page number 56 in that particular paragraph. There is a hidden reference about it. I know, I remember. And you immediately click on option A. And you know what? All the questions in CBAP and CCBA will be very tricky. And those folks who have prepared those questions, they know that, like, how will you fall into that? They know clearly how you fall into that trap. So all the questions, if you see whatever you see in WebOc, if it is very easy, ask yourself, will they ask those kind of questions in the examination? So first, very moment when you read a question, and if you're getting some vibes like this question is very easy, then imagine that, like, they are laying a trap for you. Because there are 2 types of, there are 2 ways how you can answer any question. One, based on your BA experience, and second, based on your WebOc reading. So what happens is, like, whenever there is a scenario based question, our impulse is that, like, we assume that, like, what happens in the practical world. So you will equate with that of the real world, and you will think that, like, I'll go and talk to the technical SME and I'll do this. And same way you can see option A written like that: talk to the technical SME and sort it out. But when you read WebOc, in all the 6 knowledge areas, the business analyst is empowered to do everything. So if you see, a business analyst will work on the risk management, he can work on the solution limitations, he can work on everything. So BA is a superhero. When you read WebOc, all the 6 knowledge areas, you will feel empowered. And you see that, like, the WebOc states that, like, a BA can do anything and everything in everything related to stakeholders, technical, budgeting, everything a BA can do. But in reality, but in practical world, we all know that, like, what all limitations we have when it comes to work. I know many of you guys will agree with me, because most of the things are not exposed to us, or sometimes the onshore BA will do the elicitation and we may have to do the documentation. So at many places, when they ask scenario based question, I see almost 90% of the folks who have interacted, they click on that option A or option B, and they feel that, like, they get that vibes, right? They instant says that, like, this is the answer, but they would have clicked on it based on their real world experience. That is not at all going to work. Whenever you're 100% sure this is the answer, first ask yourself, is this a trap or something? Am I clicking on the answer based on my experience or based on what I've read in WebOc? And if you can do that difference, if you can able to identify what is real world answer, what is WebOc answer, and let me tell you, you can easily clear the examination in the first attempt. This kind of understanding you need to have. Avoid that impulse of choosing the first answer. Go through all the 4 answers. In any WebOc exam, right, in any IIBA exam, out of the 4 options, 2 options can be easily eliminated. And out of the other 2, you need to choose what is the real world answer, what is the WebOc answer. So in that way, it's easy for you. If you have already read WebOc, then you know that, like, in that context, what is the right answer. So all you need to do is find out the real world answer plus the WebOc answer. And trust me, this approach, I don't know if you guys have started giving mock examinations or subscribe for mock exams, or like, are you guys are giving any question banks or something? But follow this approach, and this works 100%. I can give you assurance, this, like, understanding this one particular thing. Don't fall into that trap. So understanding let's start with the tips. The first thing is understanding the exam format. So out of 120 questions, 45 to 50 questions can be case study based questions. I told you, right? 6 to 7 case study based questions. Some case study based questions will have 5 questions, and some can go for 6 to 7 questions also. It all depends upon that case study. And where all you can expect case study based questions from the knowledge area, I can give you a clue. Case study based questions can come from RADD. Primarily, there will be at least 2 or 3 questions, case study based questions. That is like 16 to 17 questions can come from RADD. Which area? Primarily from design options, That is, they will give you the option, create, purchase, or both. So they will tell you about a problem. For instance, Uber is facing a problem and Uber wants to take a decision. Should they create a mobile app, or should they take the API from Google Maps, or should they do a combination of both? So this kind of question will come, and then they will give you the evaluation criteria, then they will give you the weightage, and the question will be more of like a weighted decision matrix, and there will be 5 or 6 questions based on it, and you will have to answer and from what you have read. And there may be some questions on the recommendation, the last task also. And then finally what happens is, you can also get questions from this data flow diagram, sequence diagram, and activity diagram, and you can expect questions. And this one you can mostly from the UML diagram. So I have seen questions from the UML diagrams also. So UML, data flow diagram, sequence diagram, process modeling. So those are all important sections wherein you can expect those case study based questions, and especially this financial estimation also. So those all areas you need to concentrate, and you can pay special attention for the case. Anyway, I'll show you towards the end, I can show you some 3 or 4 case study based questions so that you are quite aware like what will be the format. So this can be at least 300 plus words, and you can see tables, use case diagrams, data flow diagrams, use case diagrams. So those all things will be there. And then they will ask you from component A to component B, how data flows, or like what is the data stored, how data is getting converted, data, everything they can ask questions. And let me tell you, if you guys would have gone through the techniques in detail, right? And if you guys understand Gain-Sarson notation, Jordan notation, and all those notations that are mentioned for activity diagram, wherein the start, stop, those all process, if you can, if you have gone through and if you understand, these all things are like a piece of cake. And the very important thing, the second tip which I wanted to tell you is that like here they are not going to test your knowledge. Okay, this is more of like a competency based certification. So unlike other certifications, you need not memorize, mug up all the concepts of BABOK and everything. If you rely on only memorizing and everything, it is not going to work. That day, the very moment when you click on start button, and if you have only memorized it, and if you are not able to relate or correlate any of the task techniques and everything, I'll tell you the very moment when you click on the start button, high chances wherein you will forget everything. I mean, those folks who have like sticked only to it, I have heard from their experiences that like it did not work out. But at the same time, if you are reading BABOK, if you are, I'll tell you the biggest problem with many folks. I've listened to folks and they told me that like BABOK is one of the boring book. Yeah, to an extent, I'll tell you the content in the BABOK is like sleep inducing, because you see the word same project manager, project, stakeholder, analysis, approach. The same set of words will get repeated in multiple pages. So whenever we see the same set of words, automatically it's like a sleep inducing, more of like it's sleep inducing. So what I would recommend you is that like I would like you to harness the power of visualization. So whenever you read BABOK, I want you to close your eyes, and whenever you read one particular task, I want you to imagine that you are doing that particular task in your current project with the input that is mentioned in BABOK, with the guidelines that is mentioned in BABOK, and with the set of steps is the element. So whatever is mentioned in element, you close your eyes and imagine that like whenever you're doing maintenance of the requirement. So the maintenance of requirement, what is the input? So you need requirements and designs, right? So imagine that you carry requirements and designs with you, and then maintenance is all about taking care everything is perfect. So what is mentioned in the element? You check for the accuracy, you check for the reusability of the requirements. So likewise, you need to remember and recollect and everything. So in that case, your preparation time will drastically come down. So if you think that like I'm going to memorize, you may take 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, or 5 months. But if you rather harness the power of visualization, this is just going to take hardly a week. Because I have known folks who have prepared for 1 week, 2 weeks, and they cleared the certification in the first attempt. So instead of like going with that hard work way, I'll read 10 pages a day, 30 pages a day, one knowledge area a day, those all things are not going to work. Rather, enjoy the process, use your creativity and visualization, and read, imagine, and likewise. Because if you do that, then I'll tell you any scenario based question, you will know what they're asking, because you would have already imagined with your current project perspective, right? So it's easy for you to understand and connect the dots. And don't get overwhelmed when you see case study based questions at the start. So technically any examination, if you go for GMAT, SAT, or any competitive examination, CAT, if, for those folks who are based in India, CAT, Common Admission Test, any test, if you see, the first 2-3 questions of the test will be quite tough. IELTS, PTA, anything you take. First 2-3 questions will be very tough. It's because the test makers, they have that hidden agenda in order to break your confidence. So the very moment when you click on the examination start, right, the first question will be quite easy. But the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth will be case study based questions. And the very moment when you see that sheer size of all those content, right, all the table, paragraphs and everything, high chances wherein you will lose the confidence. So don't fall into the trap. IIBA is giving you that option of bookmark. So you can bookmark it and come back to it later. So when you now it's in the third or fourth question, you can see all those case study based questions. So so don't waste your time when you start the examination, right? I will not recommend you to give the case study at that time, because case study is something that you need to take some little time, understand the context and then answer. So first try to complete rest 60-70 questions, which are quite easy, scenario based and everything, and then come back to all the case study based questions. And approach for mathematical based questions. So as I said, 8 to 10 questions will involve mathematical questions. So basic percentage, average knowledge would suffice. So if you, I'll again tell you, return on investment, weighted decision matrix, estimation. So those all areas you can expect mathematical questions, but it's all simple addition, subtraction, and percentage, nothing else. You need not bother about anything. There'll be no questions out of the context also. Whatever the formulas that are given in the financial analysis technique, those you need to refresh. Present value, discount rate. And this is what I've told you. Many folks, they fall into that trap. And many folks, they don't have the confidence of giving CBAP also, because they attribute that CBAP with that of my total years of experience. So your years of experience doesn't matter to IIBA, okay? So for instance, I have close to 12 years of experience, okay? My 12 years of experience did not help me in clearing this exam. I'm making this as a bold statement. My 12 years of BA experience did not help me in clearing the certification, because what I did is, like, I rather read BAPOC and aligned my thinking with that of BAPOC, and then I was able to clear the examination. So don't think that, like, those folks who are with 5-6 years of experience and they think that, like, CBAP is only for senior BAs. I just started my BA career, I don't have the confidence, nothing. Here they are not testing your BA like what you know in the real world. That is not being tested. Here, what you read in BAPOC, are you able to correlate, understand, like, why are they telling you to do like that in particular fashion? If you are able to understand the gist of it, that is what is being tested here. So your real world experience is of zero use for answering scenario based questions or case study based questions. It will be of zero use, and it is not going to help you in any way. So don't rely on your preconceived notions, or like what happens in your project or what happens in the other project, what is considered as a standard. In Agile, we do like this. In Manifesto, it is mentioned like that. In my project, a business analyst will never work on a risk register. Those all things, keep it aside. In BAPOC, when you read that, like, a BA has to do it, yeah, then you think that, like, okay, a BA can do it. So this can help you in finding out, especially for scenario-based questions, because scenario-based questions, it's easy for you to eliminate what happens in the real world. If you can find out what happens in the real world, and if you can eliminate it, then hardly you have only one answer left. And that, even if you are not sure, you can take an educated guess and then you can go with that option. And the power of elimination, I'll again stress this. The power of elimination works 90% of the times for CCBA and CBAP. Out of 4 options, instead of selecting the first answer, instead of selecting the answer, start eliminating the answers. Okay, this I learned on my last mock examination, and I feel this is one of the wonderful technique. Don't think about choosing the right answer. Try to eliminate the answer, because in BAPOC, most of the scenario based question, the last line of the question, they will ask you what would be the best answer. So they want you to choose the best answer. So there'll be at least 2 answers which you feel will be like working in that particular context. So your approach should be elimination. Out of the 4 options, if you feel option A is not at all relevant, strike it out. Option B is also not at all relevant, strike it off. Option C, somewhat relevant. Option D, this is also somewhat relevant. Then you check option C and D. which would be the best answer according to that particular scenario or context. And then you will have to click on option C. If you feel, yeah, option C is 90%, option D is around 60%. And if you're getting that confidence, go with option C. That's it. This is the approach which you need to follow for CBAP, especially for scenario-based questions. And this is what I had mentioned during the start of the session. So I cannot tell you like how many times you have to read BABOK, because I've seen folks who just read BABOK only 2 times and they cleared it. And there are folks who read 20 times and they are not able to clear. So it is not about the number of times you read, rather what level of reading you do. If you can harness the visualization and if you're able to connect all the dots, because BABOK is a story. I don't know how many of you agree with me, but I'll tell you, BAPM, the way how I approached it, right? I'm not a master storyteller, but I'll tell you the way how I approached BAPM is like I imagined an organization, and in that I joined an organization, and in that organization, they don't know anything about business analysis. So they onboarded me as a BA lead, and my job is to create that entire BA practice. So first thing, the sponsor gave me the needs document, and sponsor is asking me to take it forward from there. So the input is needs, and from there, I need to come up with the BA approach. So I created the BA approach document, and then the sponsor is saying that like these all stakeholders will be part of this project. So then I with the BA approach document in my hand and needs in my hand, I'm preparing the stakeholder engagement approach. And now the sponsor is saying that like, how will you work with the requirement priority? And also now I'm creating the governance approach document. And I have 3 documents already created: stakeholder engagement approach document, business analysis approach document. So those 2 documents I'll keep, and I'll create the governance approach. So this is how I was able to understand. I created, whenever I read BABOK, right, I'll use my little bit of creative storytelling things. I'll be able to connect the dots with that of the real world. And that's how I read it. And I'll tell you, hardly I read BABOK only 2 times. So 2 times of reading was more than enough for me to clear the examination. And my total preparation time was like close to 24 hours. So that is 3 days. I spent 8 hours a day. So 24 hours is what I spent on reading BABOK. And the 4th day I gave the examination with that confidence. So, and I have seen folks with completing with 1 day preparation also. So that is not a big deal. 1 day preparation is more than enough. If we can understand the BABOK is quite easy, okay? Though it is sleep inducing, but once you understand what is the crux of it, because BABOK is written by the senior business analyst only. If you clear CBAP and if you want to be part of it, you can write to IIBA, and in the next BABOK version, you can also contribute your articles to it. So BABOK is not something senior BAs who have, 20, 25 years BA, they did not write it. It is like combination, and everybody collaborated and contributed, and that's how BABOK came into existence. So one thing which I would recommend you is like those folks who are not getting that motivation. I mean, if you are self-motivated, then you can prepare on your own. But for those folks who are not getting that self-motivation, if they are getting easily distracted, then I would recommend them to go for classroom training, because classroom training every weekend or every weekday, 2 hours, 3 hours, you will sit with a peer group. And one advantage is the networking opportunity. And the second advantage is that like, even if you have a very minimal BA experience, you can converse with those folks in your particular batch who have 10, 15, 20 years of BA experience, who are in your own same geography. You can share your ideas and you can understand what works good in their organization. So that gives you the networking opportunity, especially in order to build that confidence. And when you attend those trainings, automatically you understand. And if the trainer is good, you will be able to connect the dots. So I would recommend classroom training as I'll not say it is must. In case if you are feeling distracted, in case if you're not able to understand those concepts, then definitely I would recommend classroom training. If you're self-motivated and if you're able to understand, if one reading of BABOK is more than enough, I'm able to remember, recollect and everything, then I would recommend you that go for CBAP question bank. So CBAP question bank is going to help you, like you go, there'll be some 1,000 question banks. You can go and do the research, like what all question banks are there in the market. But one thing which you need to choose is that like those question banks should be aligned with that of the IIBA standard. Whatever you see in all those Telegram groups and LinkedIn groups that are floating around, that PDFs, right? They are not at all related to IIBA standards. They are just plain CCBA kind of questions, straightforward questions. So don't fall into the trap. wherein you take one PDF from, I mean, there are some PDFs that are floating in the internet as like CBAP dumps, CCBA dumps, but I'll tell you, not even 1% it is related to the IIBA. Those are all not at all IIBA standard questions. And let me make a bold statement here. There are no dumps available for CBAP or CCBA. IIBA is so protective of this particular examination, not even a single question. And after you clear the examination, you will have to click on that NDA icon, non-disclosure agreement. You're not supposed to share your questions or what was there in the, I mean, whatever questions you got in the slide, you're not supposed to share it. So IB is that much protective and secretive about it, and I'm 100% sure no way nobody can come and tell I cleared it because of the dump. So don't rely on dumps and everything. Prepare with question banks. So Techcanvas question bank has a combination of around 1,000 questions. So once you give those 1,000 questions, at least, I mean, like what are the different ways IIBA will think and ask questions, right? So out of that 1,000 questions, 10% or 20% of the questions, the similar questions you can expect in IIBA, because anyway, the questions can come from that 500 pages only. So from that 500 pages, the way how they can ask 1,000 questions you have attempted. And if you're taking from a different vendor, another 1,000 questions. So 2,000 questions you have practiced. And if you have practiced 2,000 questions, I can 100%, I can guarantee you can clear the examination, provided you answered at least 50% of the questions correct. Because more and more you practice those questions, I mean, that's all the questions I can ask from that particular page, right? Or from that particular section. So you are exposing yourself, or you're exposing your brain to like different kinds of questions. And the second biggest advantage is the time management skill. If you are preparing for the examinations, go and give one full length mock examination, because 120 questions, 3 hours, right? So time management skills comes into place. If you are not concentrating, if you're falling into the trap, some questions are called as sitter questions. You will not understand which knowledge area it is, which particular section it is, and you will waste your time. Hardly you get only 2 minutes per question. But if you fall into the trap of that particular questions, right? What happens is you will spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or you may spend 15 minutes on one case study. And what happens is towards the end, you will have to rush. Average, it takes only 2.5 hours in order to complete the examination. On average, most of the students reported that like they completed the examination within 2.5 hours, because they had this excellent time management skills, because they they attempted so many questions. At minimum, 2 full length mock examinations you need to take, because that gives you the confidence. And I just need to debunk. So those are the 7 tips which I wanted to add, but still I can add more, but due to the paucity of the time, I was not able to come up with the other tips. But still, we have been partnering with IIBA, so we'll be coming up with more sessions in the coming months, wherein I'll talk about the other things which you need to concentrate also. So few of the exam myths which I want to debunk, because there are so many things which I see in LinkedIn, people posting about CBAP, CCBA, those and everything. So I'll just make it clear to you. And in case if you have any questions also, this would help. I need to by-hat, babok and all tasks. By-hatting is not going to work. Mugging up is not going to work. Even if somebody is asking you, what is a BA approach? Instead of you remembering that like a BA approach is agile or waterfall, you need to understand and connect the dots, and you will have to explain it to him in a layman terms. BA approach is that like when you join a new organization, and if you have to start a project, what kind of approach, what kind of SDLC method. So this kind of understanding you need to have. Don't, in that way, if you remember, hardly 5 seconds or 10 seconds, you can recollect what is the input, output, and elements. But if you memorize it, when you mug up it will work. But the problem is like there'll be one tricky questions, and when you focus more on that, high chances wherein you will lose it. I took a career break, so cannot take CBAP, nothing of that sort. They look at your last 7 years, last 7 or last 10 years experience, and you need to show around 7,500 hours of BA experience. So that doesn't matter, career break or nothing doesn't matter, provided you have 7,500 hours in the last 10 years. I need to do ECBA, CCBA before CBAP, nothing of that sort. If you have more than 6-7 years of experience, total BA experience, and if you have 7,500 hours, then go for CBAP directly. And nothing like that. You have to give ECBA first, CCBA. There is no hierarchy like that. I have 10 years of experience, I'll easily clear CBAP. But if you have 10 years of experience, I'll tell you, if you have that overconfidence and if you have that conscious bias, you will not clear it. So if you feel that like I'm a student, I'll go and read WebOc, I'll understand, I'll be able to connect the dots, then you will clear. So the 3 years or 4 years of experience have higher chances of clearing CBAP than those folks who have crossed 10 years, because they are ready to absorb the content which is there in WebOc. So don't rely on your experience. It's multiple choice. I can easily take educated guess. Yeah, you can take a guess, but taking an educated guess, you need to understand those concepts, the elements and everything. Only then you can take an educated. It's not that easy. I'll tell you, always two options will be like very similar, but you will have to see the percentage wise, which is the most appropriate answer. And that only when you read WebOc, it will work. CBAP certification is tough. Not like that. CBAP certification hardly 3 days, 4 days, 1 week, 2 weeks. There are folks who have cleared within 1 day, 2 days of preparation also. And there are folks who are preparing for 2-3 years. It's because they are not properly strategizing. So there is a knowledge area, right? Strategy analysis, analyzing the current state, defining the future state. So ask yourself, what is your current state of preparation? Ask yourself, what is your future state of preparation? And ask yourself, what are the risks that is stopping you from preparing for the certification? Assess risk. And the fourth task, define change strategy. Come up with a change strategy when it comes to your preparation. So this is how I'm equating. Now I've told you the strategy analysis. I am analyzing it from your preparation purpose perspective and asking you to connect the dots. Current state, future state, risk, change strategy. So now if it is not working 2 months, 3 months, and if you're not able to concentrate, work on your change strategy. Check for your operational readiness assessment. And what else? Organizational culture, policies, and everything. You guys remember, connect all the dots with out of your current situation. That's it. CBAP is very easy. CBAP, and some folks, right? The gray point story. I mean, the source or grape or something, sour grape story. CBAP certification is not valid. Only real knowledge matters. Nothing of that sort. If you guys see, currently most of the organizations in I just go and check LinkedIn for senior BA opening. Okay, you see that like in CBAP IIBA certifications are getting attraction. That is especially for those folks in US, Canada, and even in Europe, UK, right? I'm seeing so many job descriptions that are mentioned about CBAP certification is a plus, or any IIBA certification is a plus. So if you are asking me that, like, if I do this certification, can I change my career into business analysis? That is altogether a different thing. Okay, that I cannot answer. That all depends upon your core skill set. But I'm not telling you that, like, if you do CBAP certification, you will get that 10%, 20% salary hike. Or so. I'm not promising you all that, but rather I'm telling you CBAP certification is going to help you. CCBA or CBAP certification is going to get you that pass. So whenever there are 10 or 15 folks who have applied for that role, and all are of the same tenure, and all have the same domain experience, and if that HR knows about IIBA certification, you will be given that entry pass. So you can outsmart rest all 14 candidates, and you will be given that interview opportunity. And it's up to you how you convert that interview opportunity. But the good thing is that once you prepare for this certification, any business analysis related question or technique, any question if they ask, you will be able to answer, because you would have already studied this in WebOc, right? All the 50 techniques, elicitation techniques, stakeholder management. If they ask you any questions related to it, you are in a position to answer it. So that can help you from your interview preparation standpoint also. So I can guarantee you that, like, having a IIBA certification can get you a gate pass, but I'm not telling you that, like, this can help you in, like, transforming your career. Those all promises I'm not going to make. So that's all I wanted to talk today about the scenario questions and case study based questions. So what I'll do is, like, now I'll share some sample questions. So let me stop sharing just a second. Let me open that window and then I can show that. One second.
Thanks, Satish. Just while you get that ready, I'd like to acknowledge we have a good chunk of questions in here, particularly around the question bank option. So just so everybody knows, we'll make sure to come back to that as soon as we can.
Yes, thanks, Maria. So this is the questions which I wanted to show you. So you guys can see my screen. Okay. So most of those folks, the case study based questions. So how it will look like. So I'll just, I mean, due to the time, we cannot go through those questions, but I can show you, like, how the questions will look like. So this is how the question will look like. So you will see there is you will have a title for that case study based question. You can see there is an introduction paragraph. It talks about Fell Private Limited, and it talks about the weightage, and there is some table. And here they are mentioning about assets forecasting, and the problem statement, business requirement, problem solving, what are the expectations, and then you have this data flow diagram. So this is the question. So this can go for 1 or 2 pages, and then you will have 5 questions that are related to that particular case study based questions. So what will be my approach? What worked for me? Okay. So what worked for me? I don't know whether it will work for you, but what worked for me and what worked for some of those folks who applied my strategy, I'll tell you, don't waste your time in reading all this, because then you're going to waste 3-4 times, and all this is like unnecessary content. The first approach you need to go is like very moment, skim through, see what all things are mentioned, skim through, read the first question. And 60% of the case study based questions can be directly answered. That is, you need not go through this content. Directly, you can take an educated guess and you can answer. So now if you see here, which of the below listed technique is best suited for making reports? So which technique can be used for making reports for the reporting module? So I'll just see what is a reporting module. So what are they talking about reporting module? But here it is there, reporting module. But let me do that elimination technique. Concept modeling is whenever you're working in any new particular domain, and if you're drawing a diagram for that particular domain, noun and verb, that is concept modeling, and it is not used for making reports. So straight away eliminated. Data flow diagram is used to show how the data flows from one part to another. So it is not at all related to reports, eliminated. Data modeling is physical data model, logical data model, entity relationship diagrams and everything. So this is also not at all related to reports. Fine, 3 options eliminated. The only option remaining is data mining. Even I'm not sure whether data mining is related to the reports, but since I'm 100% sure this 3 can be eliminated, I'll go with data mining. That's all. This is how that educated guess will work. And now I'm going to the next question. So here they're asking you the database module. What is the best variation for database module? And once again, when I see the options, it is talking about the techniques. So I need not go through the context. I know database model is always physical data model because it is there in BABOK and it is there in that one particular diagram. That's all. This is a tricky question, and someone who can answer this can be looked upon as a well-read BABOK individual, because I already know physical data model is related to the data. It's directly, it's a straightforward question from BABOK. I'll go to the next question. So now this is quite tricky. Okay, so now they are talking about Phil as Jack to submit. I don't know who is Phil and I don't know Jack. So what I'll do is like I'll do a Control F, and then I'll try about like who is Phil. Okay, here I'm getting understanding the context from you. Matthew is the CEO of Phil, and he decides in collaboration with Phil who's the forecasting. First, I have to understand the context, because these kind of questions definitely you have to understand the context, and now you'll come back. So now you are asking for expected solution benefit, cost of creating the solution, cost of operating the solution. But here, this question is also quite easy, because here they're asking you the technique. Nowhere here there'll be no mention about the technique, right? So I know this question is also can be directly answered. So now let me eliminate the options. Expected solution. So here it is expected. So that is the clue. The devil is in the details. So whenever you go for a scenario-based questions and case study-based questions, read the question twice. Always concentrate on the last line of the question and always look for the hidden references. So hidden references will be in the second or third line. And the last line of the question, sometimes it can be what should not be selected, what should be the best approach. So look for those adverbs. So here when I see expected is one of the clue, and here they're asking me which technique. So estimation, financial analysis, SWOT analysis, or risk analysis management. So risk analysis management I can ignore. SWOT analysis I can ignore. Estimation and financial analysis. Estimation is something that talks about PERT, top value, bottom, and everything, right? So this I can go with estimation, or I can go with financial analysis. So I'm confused. So this is where I don't know which one I should choose. So if I'm taking an educated, once again, I'm reading the question. Expected solution benefit, cost of creating, cost of operating. So I feel that like these all things are covered in the financial analysis or estimation. But when I see this expected, that gives me a clue that like here you're going to do an estimation only. So I'm clicking on estimation. I'm not sure. Let me see. Yeah. So when we see in BABOK, right, estimation is used to support decision making by coming up with the cost and effort. So this is what the case study based questions will look like. I'll just show you some more case study based questions also. Just give me a second.
Oh, Satish, I'm just going to do a time check. We're at 10:50 right now, Eastern time.
Yeah, just give me a 2 minutes, Moria. I'll just show them one more thing so that, yeah, so that they'll
Fantastic.
all
No,
the,
these
yeah.
are very useful.
So I'll just show you one more type. Okay. So here, if you see, it talks about the current process flow. And then what is the approach? Again, you have a process flow diagram, and then you will have 5 questions. So this is how the case study based questions will look like, but I'm preparing you for the worst. Okay. So all you see here is 1 page, but when in my examination, I saw it for like 2 pages, 3 pages also. So I'm preparing you for the worst, but don't get bogged down seeing the content. Okay. That is like the trick. If you look, oh my God, this is for 3 pages, I don't know how to answer it. If you have that kind of mindset, then this will be the toughest certification in your life. Toughest certification in your life. But at the same time, the very moment when you see that question, you get that you're quite chilled out, and you go and read the question. And if you feel that like this cannot be answered without reading the content, only then go and read it. Okay. And other than it, most of the questions can be directly answered. So this strategy would also work for you. And what is scenario based questions? Scenario based question, as I said, you instead of asking you directly what is the input, output, and element, they will put it in one particular situation, and then they will ask you. So anyway, I have so many questions. So anyway, if you guys want to explore more about the question bank, you guys can reach out to the Techcanvas team, and we have 1,100 questions for both CCBA and CBAP, and you guys can practice it. Over
That
to
was a
Maria.
good answer. No, thanks, Satish. That was a great quick answer about the questions bank. Now, is there a page that I could send them to or put in the chat? Right now, I've put the CBAP certification training.
Yes, I'll send that now.
Perfect. Thanks, Satish. Now, we had a few example questions. Do you want me to go through a few of those right now, Satish?
Yes, you can. Yeah, you can do that, Maria. And after that, we'll take the questions.
Perfect. So I will launch a first example question right now. So if everybody can answer what they think is the answer in the poll, everyone should see that right now coming up as a pop-up. Perfect. I'm seeing some answers coming in. Just because we're a little tight on time, I'll just give it a few seconds. And closing. So our results showed that we had 73% of the audience answer 6. Now, if we look at the correct answer, that would have been, the answer is A, 6. Good for everybody. I'm going to stop that right now, and I will move on to the next question. Everyone should see another pop-up. What is the total number of techniques referenced in BABOK version 3? Well, people don't seem as divided by this one. A few more seconds. And closing. As everyone can see, most people answered B, which is the correct answer. So congratulations, everybody. Just move us on to the next question. What are the total number of core concepts mentioned in the BACCM model? A few more seconds. And closing. So it looks like everybody was pretty decided on there being 6 core concepts, which is correct. I'll move us on to the next one. Launching it now. Which requirements are of temporary nature? Non-functional, stakeholder requirements, or transition requirements? I'm glad to see everyone so confident. We don't really have a lot of people answering differently for these. They must be listening to you, Satish.
Yeah.
I'll give it a few more seconds. and closing. Just sharing those results with you. And everybody is correct. 88% of you answered transition requirements, and that is the correct answer. So just moving us on to the final question before we move into Q&A. Complex, technically risky requirements will be given the lowest priority during prioritization to avoid ambiguity. True or false?
And if you guys can get this question right? I mean, this is how the CCBA questions will be.
Few more seconds. And closing. A little more divided on this one, but the majority still answered correctly for that one. So good job, everybody. So that completes our question section for this, just from us. At this point, we will move on to Q&A. So for this portion, I will just take a few questions from the chat. Moving all the way to the top. From Damon, are case study questions also math-based, or are the math-based questions separate from the 30 to 40 case study questions you mentioned?
Yeah, hi Damon. So it can be a combination. So if you ask me, at least 10 questions, so totally 10 questions will be mathematical oriented. So it can be case study, or it can be scenario based questions also. So it depends upon the cases. So if it is like, if they want to do a case study based questions on the financial analysis, all the 6 questions will be mathematically, you will have to do the calculation. Or sometimes what happens is they can ask you a scenario based questions also, 10 questions on ROI and other stuffs and everything. So it can be of any type, but I can guarantee you that like minimum 10 questions will be wherein you will have to do those mathematical calculations.
Fantastic. Now, I know we had a lot of questions about this one, so I'll just reiterate it. The questions bank, where would people go to get the questions bank that you recommend?
Yeah, so I'll put it in the chat. You can send it. Yeah. So this is the question bank wherein they can check out. I've sent it to you, Maria, to the panelists. Yeah.
Fantastic. We'll make sure to post that on the YouTube recording as well once we posted it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Next question from Donna. What is the difference between scenario-based and case study-based?
Yeah, so scenario-based questions, you can get it around maybe what is the input? I told you, right? What is the input for plan B approach? That is a CCBA question. But if it is a scenario-based question, it will be like 6 or 7 sentences. Like they will tell you that like Thomas is working as a business analyst and Thomas got the business need and Thomas wants to find out like what kind of approach he needs to take. And then they will ask you what is the primary input that is required in order to do this task. So that is a scenario-based question. So they're indirectly asking you what is the input, output, or the element. So that is scenario-based. And case study-based, I showed you, right? All those use case diagrams, all those tables, all those process flow as is to be, those are all case study based problems.
Thanks, Satish. Just moving on to our next question. On your techcanvas.com courses / IIBA CBAP certification training link, what is meant by CBAP batches start date? Is this the start date of the weekly class meetings? And if so, how long is each meeting? Will it total 35 hours?
Yeah, so Donna, you can reach out to the Techcanvas support team. So every weekend we have batches in the morning and evening based on your based on the geographical. I mean, we have those batches, morning and the evening batch, and this goes on for 7 weekends. So every Saturday and Sunday, 2.5 hours, so that you qualify for that 35 hours PDU.
Thanks. And we'll also have your information to reach out to you afterwards, Donna. So that should be helpful for any more information you need on that one.
Yes, I'll send you.
I urge everybody to just post it in the Q&A. We do have too many questions for the amount of time left. So I just want to make sure that we have the report available to us to get back to any questions we have remaining. But I will move on to the next question, and we are coming up on the end of the hour, and that will be it. From Jetu, I only have 5 years of business analysis experience. Am I eligible for CBAP certification?
Yeah, Jito. So you just need to calculate like what is your total hours of BA experience. Is it 7,500 hours? So with 5 years of experience, I would recommend you to go for CCBA now. But once you cross 7 years of experience, then it would make sense to go for CBAP, because with 5 years, CBAP is too early in your career, because once you complete CBAP, there are no certifications for you. Once you, you cannot project yourself as a senior BA later. So with 5 years, go for CCBA now. And once you reach that 7, 8 years of experience in your career, it makes sense for you to go for CBAP. And once you cross around 10 or 12 years of experience, go for PMP.
Thanks, Satish. Well, that concludes our hour for the day. So thanks again for the insightful answers and for some great question banks and just concepts for everybody for working towards their CBAP. Just to wrap up, that wraps up our time for Q&A and for our webinar. Thank you for our attendees for joining us today and asking some questions and just being here with us. Satish, do you have any parting words?
No, thanks, Moria. Thanks for all the support. And for those folks who have listened to me and those guys who are preparing or who are serious about your preparation, all the best wishes. Keep all these things in mind. And I'll tell you, this journey is going to take a lot of hard work you need to put, and you need to, put all that hard work, okay? And don't worry about, and like once you see that pop up, congratulations, you have cleared, right? Nothing on the world will beat that feeling. So you'll be on cloud nine, and that's when you will realize what cloud nine is all about and everything, and basking in the glory. Those all words you will experience on that particular pop-up. Once you see that pop-up, all your hard work, whatever hours you put, like how you read and all those 200, 300 hours of preparation, that result you will see on that pop-up. So I want you all those 140, 180 folks who have attended this call to experience that particular moment. So best wishes and all the best, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.